ahava, ahava, A-H-A-V-A. It comes from the Hebrew word hav, H-A-V, which the root word means to give, give. Ahava means I give, which is most often translated as love. The word give is translated as love. In the Hebrew Bible, love is not a feeling that you fall into. Love is a decision of the will. It's manifest in action. So it is cheap to tell someone you love them without follow-up and action. Okay, so it's an action word. We love the people in Nigeria. And we put that in action by showing our love, by helping build a pit toilet, just so people can go to the bathroom. Build a place where people can sleep. Build a place where people can eat. We love the church. We show our love for the church through giving our portion of what God has given us. The actions of love is the self-giving of one to another. Like Hesed, the desire to bring the well-being of another, the willingness to give up what may be in my best interest, to give up what may seem to be in my best interest for the best interest of the other in order to bless you. That is God's love. In order to bless you, in order to encourage you, in order to help you, and to stand by you, and to love you. I love you, therefore I will help you to use your gifts to their fullest. This helps me when I look at my relationship with Jim, helps me when I look at my relationship with my sisters, or for the church, or for the whole earth. Love isn't just a feeling. Love is a willingness to give of myself to all of you. Willingness to think first of their well-being. This is what biblical love is about. This is what it looks like. It's a gift of giving. In the New Testament, there are two words that are mostly used for love, and they are very similar they have very similar meaning to the same words in the Old Testament. One is philia, like Philadelphia, the city of brotherly love. Philia is a love that you have for your kin, the covenant love that you have for your kin. It's not about a feeling, because sometimes you don't feel very good about your kin. But I'm sticking with you because you are my kin. It's primarily a way of acting. So that's filial love. But agape is the second. Agape is used in a variety of senses, but in the New Testament, it's used primarily to signify sacrificial love. That I'm going to put my needs, your needs, above my own. When we get to this part of the Bible where Jesus surrenders his life, he surrenders his life to the oppressive forces of the Roman Empire and is sentenced to death on a cross, the word that is used for that love is agape, giving his life. This idea of giving is central to this notion of love. God is giving. God is seeking our well-being. God is faithful. God is loyal. God is merciful. And that is the primary characteristic of God. God is love. I was blessed in my first appointment was a student appointment. The church was built in the 1700s. And over the door, in order to walk in, right above the door, outside, everybody could see, etched in the stone was, God is love. Because this idea of giving is so important. We hear it in John 3:16, which you would recognize. God so loved the world that he gave us Jesus. Gave. To love is to give. It is God's nature to give. I know that when we lose a life, we struggle to say the right words. Some words are not helpful to hear, is God needed another angel, as if God took a life of a young one. That is not helpful. God gives, God doesn't take. God gives us love, God gives us strength, God gives us comfort. To love is to give life. So it says in 1 John, God's love was revealed among us in this way. God sent God's Son into the world so that we might live through him. And this is love, not that we loved God, but he loved us. God loved us. God sought to save us from ourselves, save us from fear. He came to redeem us, to bring about our well-being. So Christmas is a love story. And in the midst of that love story, God comes. It's a story of a God who loves humankind, a God who loves all his or her creatures, God who is willing to pour himself, his essence, into us humans, to walk among us, to feel the losses, to feel the same sorrows, to be with us, to know. But more important, to show us the love, to lay down his life. This is a love story. Sometimes we get glimpses of this kind of love. I still love you, you are mine, that kind of love. I had glimpses of that kind of love with like a dog. I had a really great dog, Sheba. Jim never got to know Sheba. Sheba had been put to sleep a few years before that, but I had her for 15 years. It didn't matter what kind of day I had, whether I had a good day in school or a bad day in school, whether I had a good day at work or a bad day at work. Sheba always loved on me. You know that. They love on you. That's the kind of love. Doesn't matter whether you've done a good job or not. This is the love that Christina Rossetti was speaking about. Love came down at Christmas. Love all lovely, love divine. Love was born at Christmas. Star and angels gave the sign. Each of us needs to be loved. We are created that way. Look at the baby that is crying. All you have to do is make some little googling, noises and smile and hug. The mom and dad just needs to hug and comfort. And what happens? They feel the love. We all long to be loved. We all long to be treasured. We all long to be valued. But some of you may never have felt that kind of love as a child. You may never have had a dad or a mom that told you that they loved you until they were much older, and maybe when they were dying. And that is a long, long time to wait to be told that you are loved. I have friends who were never told they were loved by their parents. Or their parents said they told them they loved by what they did, but they never said it. So they spent their whole lives trying to convince themselves and the world that they were worthy of love, that they were good enough. They never felt good enough. Here is the thing. Your parents may never have told you that. Your spouse may not tell you that enough. Your heart may have been broken by your kids. But there is one who loves you, one who formed you, who knows all of your stuff, all of your stuff. I mean, all of your stuff. and still loves you with hesed, with avhava, that kind of love, with a steadfast, loyal love that says, I will not let you go. And when you finally begin to get that, you can really trust. And it's funny how that happens. When you're able to trust that, then you're able to trust actually yourself. And you're able to trust that you can give love. And that you can show love. And then you can receive love. Because the capacity in which you're able to show love is also the capacity to be able to receive love. I had that experience when I was 7 years old, when I made my first Holy Communion. My family was young. My parents were young. They didn't always do things the right way. And my family, my extended family didn't always do things the right way. But when I made my first Holy Communion, I knew the love of God, and I knew what it was like to be able to, in just a small part of my life, to be able to show love to somebody else. It's when I really didn't like Billy Bleeks very much. He was in my class. His mom and dad and grandparents hung out with my mom and dad and grandparents, and his mom was an alcoholic. And Billy used to act up in class all the time. He used to do stupid things, and of course I was so cool, right? I never did anything stupid, but I thought it was really cool. I'm 7, and I'm thinking these things, right? 7, second grade, thinking these things already. And Billy would get bloody noses all the time, and I didn't want to even acknowledge when I was in school that I knew him. But when it came time to make our first Holy Communion, of course, Butler Bleeks together, and he was scared to go up. He was afraid that he'd do something wrong. And if he did something wrong, it'd be really bad. In those days, there were a lot of superstitions going around that if you bit the host, it bled. The nuns never taught us that, by the way. But we still, through the rumor, mill, what's going to happen. So you couldn't chew the host. You had to just let it dissolve. And he was worried that he would do that. So I held his hand, and I brought him up to communion, and we knelt together, and I told him not to worry. That it was Jesus we were receiving, and that even if he bit the host, nothing bad was going to happen to him, because God loved him. And so we walked up together. I held his hand, and I walked back with him, holding his hand, and that's God's love. And I felt it, not only what I was receiving, but what I was able to give to him. And I remember that. So and it changed me. Not all the time, but I love to remember that story because that reminds me. How has the love of God changed you? Do you live a life that is worthy of God's sacrifice? Live a life worthy of that sacrifice, which is what Christina Rossetti said in the second stanza. Worship we the Godhead, love incarnate, love divine. Worship we our Jesus, but wherewith for sacred sign? Wherewith for sacred sign? Well, I puzzled over those words for a while this week. They puzzled me. Well, the stars and the angels were signs. The stars were the sign for the wise men, and the angels were the signs for the shepherds. The angels were able to say to the shepherds, "Be not afraid." See, those were the signs. But what will we see? What will our signs be? How will others see the sign? That's wherewith for sacred sign. Where will those sacred signs be for us? If the wise men had the stars and the shepherds had the angels, where will you see it? And she answers that in her last stanza when she says, love shall be our token. Love shall be yours, and love be mine. Love to God, and love to neighbor, love for plea, and gift and sign. So love is our response to the extravagant gift of God. Love is the sign that we offer to others. The fact that Christ has come is shown through our love, through our giving. His love for us has changed my heart. When you operate out of a deficit of love, how can you give away something you don't feel you already have enough of? You aren't sure you have enough of it, so how can you give it away? You can't love, you can't give yourself away selflessly because you're afraid that there isn't enough. There isn't enough. But when you finally draw from that water, and that's why we remind ourselves every Sunday when we come to worship, that sign of water from the deep wells of God's love, you know that it never runs out. Then you aren't afraid anymore to give love away because you know there is a lot more where that came from. There's always more. And there is plenty for everyone else. This is what the Epistle of John says to us on this Sunday before Christmas. Beloved, since God loved us so much, we also ought to love one another. No one has ever seen God. If we love one another, God lives in us, and God's love is perfected in us. No one has ever seen God. And the only way that God, that everyone actually, that everyone gets to see God is God's love shining through us, through another person. Bill Selby, who is the mentor at the Center for Pastoral Effectiveness, always ends every time we gather together, and some of you will remember these words that he said. May you live your life so that those who meet you will want to know your God. We are the sign that points the way to the love that came down at Christmas. When people can see the self-giving, the self-sacrificing, the extravagantly love of others, they'll be able to know. This year I've talked about us being clear about our mission and vision. I've talked a lot about it. I started in July, talked about it all throughout August, parts of September, and people are still kind of scratching their head about that a bit. But our mission and vision, why are we here? What are we trying to do? The mission ought to inspire and move people. My Aunt Maggie, she's one of the people that was friends with Billy Bleak's mother. And fortunately, my Aunt Maggie later in life found sobriety and spent a lot of time as a friend of Bill. But my Aunt Maggie worked for Hallmark Cards. Do you know what the mission of Hallmark Cards is? Most people don't know what it is. Many people think it is, and you're probably thinking this: when you care enough to send the very best, right? Well, that is not their mission statement. It's not their vision. That's a marketing slogan. That is a value statement. Some will say, to make the very best greeting card in the world. Good try, but that's not the mission and vision for Hallmark Cards. Some will say, to be the leader in greeting card sales. Interesting, but it's not it. What it is just two words. And these two words are why people, many years later, are still working for Hallmark Cards and enjoying it. The mission of Hallmark Cards is to enrich lives. Enrich lives. Enrich lives. They are excited to be there because they are really, what they're doing is enriching people's lives. And they're excited about that. We as Christians have a mission. And it's really simple. It's more than 2 words. It's twofold. It can be summarized in 4 words, though. And it is love God with everything that is in you and to love other people. To love God with everything that's in you and to love other people. Hallmark maybe have a tool to express their mission and vision to enrich lives, but we are the ones to live it. That is what love looks like, the giving of oneself for the well-being of another. We make it complicated at Christmas. I love Christmas. I love the smells of Christmas. I love when we were making the Christingle candle. I love the smell of the cloves and the orange. I love it all. But we also spend a lot of time buying a perfect gift. But love looks like someone to listen. Love looks like those cards that the kids made and I was able to bring over to Sunnycrest this week. Love looks like people that sing and listen. What does love look like in Nigeria? Well, I know that love will look like when the money comes and they're able to hire people and people have work and people build. I know that it looks like a 4-year-old named Lloyd who gets an allowance from his mom's and shared it. And you can read this story in this week's midweek update from our Northeast district. He saved up money from his allowance and brought it to church so that he could give it to Cunningham School so that some children who weren't able to buy books at the book fair a couple of weeks ago could buy books. That's what love looks like. And I just want to prepare you all for how love can look like this year when you give money to through your special offering. You'll be able to help people in the North Tama Food Pantry, and you'll be able to help people in Matthew 25. My hope and prayer is for you to picture yourselves as being these signs of love. So I invite you now I invite you now actually to close your eyes and put your palms out on your lap and to say quietly after me, say quietly or to yourself. You can say it out loud quietly or just whisper it or keep it in your heart. God, I accept your gift of love. Help me to trust that you love me. Help me to live in that love. Help me to draw on that love to love other people. Make me a sign, O God, to others that love came down at Christmas. Use these hands of mine. Use my heart. Use my lips. Use my offerings as an expression of your love for others. God, thank you for loving me. In our loving God's name, amen. And let us be in a time of silence. Lord, meet us in the silence. Amen. Are there any prayers of joy that you would like to share this morning?
Is it on? Yeah. We're getting close to Christmas. Woohoo! Yeah, you can tell when family starts gathering. Yeah, it's just one of the things I love about Christmas. People come home. It's good to have siblings and family and friends home. How can you not be joyous about that? Merry Christmas.
A few weeks ago, I mentioned that one of my coworkers' daughters was going to have major heart surgery. She had that surgery on Thursday. Things went very well. She is in a regular pediatric unit. I'm not sure if it's Iowa City or Mayo, but she's doing very well, and thank you for your prayers.
Generous God, pour out your love. Any other prayers of thanksgiving, of gratitude? The prayers of concern this week, we pray for for Mark Lyon, Don and Janice Lyon's son. Mark has a brain tumor, and the family is there. Will be coming back today. They went on Thursday to spend some time. So please continue to pray for Mark for healing and for his family, especially during Christmas. We also pray for Marge Foster's brother, who is not doing very well, and his name is Bill Degner. So if you could continue to hold him in prayers and hold Marge in your prayers.
Thanks. Keep my brother's family in your prayers. I can't.
Yesterday, Pat found out that her brother's grandson, so Larry's daughter, Cammie, and their husband, their grandson was killed in a car accident yesterday, and the father of the child is in the hospital, so they'll be leaving to go out and be in Colorado with them, so keep them in your prayers.
Generous God, pour out your love. Are there any others this morning?
My sister will start another round of treatment for her brain tumor Wednesday. She went through the first series and did real well, and I was hoping that would take care of it, but it didn't heal it completely. Mm-hmm. So she'll be about another 30 days of treatments, and I'd ask if you would pray for her, if you would.
Generous God. Any others? prayers this morning. However, mindful of all of